Hello friends, today I'm going to be talking about Myers-Briggs personality types, cognitive functions, the thinking and feeling dichotomy, and how does that relate to sexism, the patriarchy, and unconscious bias in societies and people. So if you are someone that is skeptical that the patriarchy even exists, maybe you're perhaps annoyed with feminists or you just don't agree that this is even a thing, like honestly, just click out of this video or just listen to me and open your mind a bit if you'd like. But this is not going to be sociology 101. Like, I'm not going to state the obvious for you. You guys can go check out a sociology book if you'd like to learn about these things, but that's not the purpose of this video. I can't convince you of that. I am a little bit very close into this topic because I was a sociology minor and I had a multicultural certificate in school, and I'm just passionate about society and topics like this. So there's a lot to say about this video is going to be kind of a discussion. I'm going to be name dropping some celebrities that I might be sharing what I think that their personality type is, but that's besides the point. Like, even if you disagree with me on one of these celebrities or one of these examples, I hope that you still could just keep in mind the point of this video, which is to open up everyone's minds about how our unconscious bias can play a role in how we are typing certain individuals, particularly if they are men. We are more likely to think that they're thinkers, and if they're women, we're more likely to think that they're feelers. And this is a topic I'm very interested in because the actual Myers-Briggs, I'm pretty sure, I've seen some statistics before that say that 70% of men test as thinkers and 70% of women test as feelers. And I would be willing to venture and say that some of that is biological, perhaps, but a lot of that is sociological, and a lot of that is self-imposed based on how the individual was raised or how they view themselves or their connotations of what it means to be a feeler or what it means to be a thinker, and also how beneficial is it for you based on your role in society to view yourself as one of those two. For women, traditionally, it has been beneficial to view themselves as a feeler because women who are less emotionally inclined have been told their whole lives things like, oh, you should smile more, or oh, like women trying to get into power, like when you think of Hillary Clinton, who I believe to be an INTJ, her politics are besides the point. That's not what we're talking about now, so I don't want to see any comments about her politics because that's literally not what I'm talking about. I know you guys might be annoyed with my disclaimers, but like, it's really hard for me to not say them whenever like I say something and I can pretty much just feel like I know exactly what sort of comments I'm gonna get after that. It's like I want to stop people from saying something stupid. People like Hillary Clinton or other thinker types are discouraged for seeking success and seeking powerful roles as women because that personality trait in a woman is not perceived as the same way as a man who like is perhaps a TJ and is seeking success, because traditionally a man is doing that to support their family, so it's sort of seen as like a noble thing. And obviously those traditions are changing a bit, but for women traditionally, and I'm saying traditionally because no matter how #woke you are, no matter how much you like to treat people as individuals, a lot of these things are just like embedded in our DNA. It is just so natural for us to view gender this way, whether or not it is an actually true reflection on what people are. Like, when women are seeking power and seeking success in the same way, or perhaps not showing the social niceties and the social cues that a feeler might know to do, it's not seen as a good trait. You're kind of hated by other women, and you are kind of not taken seriously by men. So that's just one example. But the reason why I'm talking about this in terms of personality type is because I've just noticed a tendency for people to type powerful men as thinkers by default, and asking, like, I'm not sure if he's an INTJ or an INTP, and not even consider that he might be an INFP or an INFJ. And I've seen the reverse happen with feelers, or with a thinker woman that might show their emotions literally once. Like, for example, I think that Tana Mojo, who is a popular YouTuber, is an ENTP. I think she clearly is using introverted thinking. Just because she's being emotional doesn't mean that she's not a thinker. And it's funny because I've seen ENTP men get just as bent out of shape as she has been in her videos. But for some reason, when it's a woman doing it, it's seen as emotional. And another thing that baffles me is I believe that Russell Brand is an ENFJ, and I know a lot of people agree with me on that. Some people think that he's an ENFP. I disagree there based on the cognitive functions, but that's besides the point of this video. The point of the video is that it seems like people are more willing to entertain the fact that this guy is a thinker, despite how outwardly passionate and expressive, emotionally expressive Russell Brand is. When if a woman were to act that way, it would be absolutely no question. So, again, I'm feeling some criticism of what I'm saying. Like again, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm not proving these points. I'm just sharing. And so you guys can just decide if you'd like to have any perspective and just use what I'm saying to just consider what I'm saying. Be like, what if Meghan was telling the truth? What if Meghan was right? And then if you feel so inclined, start to view the world this way. If you don't feel so inclined, then goodbye. It was nice to know you. But anyway, for example, I believe that Carl Jung is an INFJ, and it takes a feeler to gather all of the facts about psychology and how humans work. I'm not saying that all psychologists are feelers. I know I phrased that wrong. But in a lot of ways, it really does take a feeler or someone with stronger feeling functions to be that obsessed and have your life's work be based around people and how they work and getting along with people. That's like the most extroverted feeling thing ever. And when people say he's an INTP, I think it's mostly because it would be uncomfortable to view such an intelligent man like being a feeler. And like our impressions of people is so strong because in the videos of mine where I am showing my emotions more, it's in the videos of mine where I'm showing my emotions more, I am getting told by I have comments like complaining about how irrational I'm being, but then in the videos where I'm like level-headed and sharing my thoughts, it's like, oh, you must be a thinker. I mean, people just have like this behavior that they attribute to thinker that I think so much of it is based on a patriarchal society, a sexist worldview, this entire social structure that we have built that is saying that certain types of emotional expression is not okay. There's so much I can go into that I don't really know. Like I said, this is more of a discussion. I would like to do more informative videos about this topic and actually research it more. But obviously, I mean, I can't prove sexism to you in a few minutes. But like, I'm I'm trying to limit the examples of people I use because I know it's going to distract from the point, but at the same time, if I don't use examples of people, some of you guys might just not even know what I'm talking about or what I'm referring to. But pretty much, powerful, smart men are almost always debated of, are they an INTP or are they an INTJ? Are they an ENTJ or are they an ENTP? When one, they could be a sensor, that's just a whole other thing. But when a feeler knows their shit, they're able to look competent. The reason why people are unable to consider certain the reason why people are unable to consider certain men as being feelers is because the connotations of the word feeler and what that means threatens the masculinity of those men and threatens the way that people are comfortable viewing them. I've said before and I'll say it again, I think Donald Trump is an ENFP. I think that there have been I don't know this personally, but my friend who I trust believes that Mao Zedong, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, is also an ENFP. Consider that if you will, but I think that part of the reason why people are unable to consider Trump as a feeler is because what would that mean for America? What would that mean for our world if we were under the hands of someone as volatile as a feeler? Well, we are, in my opinion. But also, him being a feeler or not is not what would make the president volatile. I think that when we talk about typing celebrities and typing our friends, learning the cognitive functions is important, but also there are these like massive trends and that influence how people, like what types and what behaviors are we willing to consider for different types of people. And people that lead with trying to show how competent they are all the time, especially men, that is a lot of times aligned with being a thinker, when every man is raised to be that way. Every man in at least Western society, from what I can speak of, I would venture to say the entire world, is raised with this idea that if they don't seem competent and if they can't show their value to you right off the bat, then they're just gonna get lost out in the mix of things. Like, you gotta just think about the traditions in society and how that has built our world and the actual reasons why people might be behaving that way. So I think we as a culture, even those of us that want to view each person as an individual, a lot of these things are subconscious. Like, there's been studies that prove subconscious bias in people against certain races, even people who claim to not be racist at all. There are psychological studies that you can take that will test your subconscious. I forget what it's called, but it's one of those things where, like, it mixes different races and then it also mixes, like, numbers, like, and you, like, put, pretty much it's trying to guess if you subconsciously equate a certain type of group in the bucket of, like, good or bad. I can't explain it, but just Google it up. I love that phrase. Google it up. Oh my gosh. Just throw that in the Google machine and see what pops up, pretty much. No, but if you type in subconscious bias test, I think that's what you should find, probably, because I've done it before. I mean, and I'm not saying that I'm immune to this. Like, I mean, even me, like someone who has been passionate about social issues since I was 14 years old, so for like a decade now, I've been trying to learn about this stuff. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert by any means, but someone that was interested enough in sociology and social justice issues, and also in multiculturalism, interested enough to try and expand my perspective. Even I, like, I'm pretty sure, like, did not get the best, like, unconscious bias. Like, these aren't things that can be solved overnight, and I'm not saying that you're a bad person if you accidentally made an assumption, because people make assumptions. People don't just make assumptions because they're bad people. They make assumptions because it's been advantageous for them in some regard. But I don't know, like, I think there's so many powerful men that, like, I, like, might relate to, I might speak like, that nobody in a million years would think that they're a feeler, because they don't actually know what extroverted feeling is, and they're so against perceiving. I think it's because also, if someone looks up to a figure and they respect their intellect, they want to believe that that person was entirely rational when coming to the conclusion, and it almost like it hurts them to think that perhaps that person was using values and emotion, as if emotion and values are any less true than logic, which they aren't. We exist in the world of emotions. To try and not use emotions and to try and pretend like we have emotion, or we don't have emotions, would be like, it would literally be like having to swim but not wanting to use water to do it. Like, it just would be a goddamn lie to say that emotions don't influence the behavior of humans and the problems in our world. And so to not use them to solve the problem seems lazy and harmful, in my opinion. So not only do I think traditionally women have played the role of a feeler and men have played the role of a thinker, where the man has had to go out and traditionally provide for his family, and the woman has had to care for the children. When you think about it, for that woman having to care for the children, feeling is a way greater tool than thinking in her daily life. So we can't think of feeling or thinking as one better than the other. We must think of it as tools. That what are we trying to do? Which tool should we use? Which combination of tools, depending on what we're trying to do. If your goal is world peace, if your goal is happiness, then maybe try feeling. If your goal is to, execute a project with efficiency, maybe you should choose thinking. Like, you got to use both, but it's not a matter of which one's better. It's a matter of what are you trying to do. And for a woman trying to nurture children, feeling is probably more advantageous. So there's a reason why women have traditionally been feelers, and there's a reason why even the women who aren't feelers have felt pressure to be a feeler based on, okay, I need to win over a mate somehow. I need to seem loving and nurturing enough to a potential partner, and as someone that could be a good mother to children. Like, whether or not you give a shit about this stuff, whether or not you even want, whether or not, maybe you're a woman who is a thinker and you don't even want children or something like that. Even if you're a feeler who doesn't even want children and you're a woman, our culture has trained us to value those things based on, like, beauty commercials, TV shows, music, the way that men have treated us our entire lives. Side note, but I almost like jumped in the shower and wore what I was gonna wear for the full day before I did this video, because I was worried that I would get comments like I have before about like, oh, you should like fix yourself up a bit before you go on camera or whatever. Like, oh yeah, I'm not wearing makeup, I just woke up, whatever. But I intentionally didn't, because if I was a man and I was looking like this in a video, perhaps my ideas would be listened to, as opposed to trying to critique how I look or anything like that. So that's another example. That's like a small micro example of the things that women deal with every day, all the time. And so you can imagine that there is pressure on a woman to, whether or not, because I know that it's like kind of nature and nurture combined when it comes to what cognitive function do we use. Even if it is completely nature and a woman is born a thinker and they always have been that way, it is way more likely for a woman to believe that they might be a feeler based on the social pressures of how they're raised and the culture that we are raised into, to maybe perhaps want to be a feeler. For example, I've met so many ENTP women who believe that they're ENFPs or ENFJs because they're nice. They want to be seen as nice. And especially with their FE as their third function, ENTPs care what people think about them, and ENTPs probably have noticed, if they were a successful woman in their career, like how it feels whenever they say something that people disagree with, or when people don't like that they shared their opinion, that like can make them uncomfortable. And ENTPs, they want to be well liked, and so I've noticed that a lot. I've had to convince like perhaps 2 to 3 ENTP women that they were in fact ENTPs, maybe more than that at this point. And it's always funny because it's like they didn't believe in Myers-Briggs before, but then once they learned their type, they did, because they needed the TI or whatever to solve it. But that's besides the point. As you can see, it's advantageous for women to at least, in addition to the social pressures they feel, it's advantageous to at least seem more like a feeler. Even I know INTJ women that, and INTJs are oftentimes the most stereotypical type that doesn't care about what people think about them and doesn't care about how they express and doesn't care about social niceties. INTJ women, a lot of them have had to almost make up for FE, their bad FE in a way, by using their TE to deduce, I should act this way or else I might not get a job. And that's completely logical and rational for an INTJ to do. To be like, I should smile more because people don't like when I don't smile, and that literally inhibits my ability to get from point A to point B. Like, that's the sort of things that INTJ women have to go through. So yeah, there's that. But also it's advantageous for men to be seen as a thinker, because traditionally if it was their job to figure out how to protect their family, then you better hope that they are not emotionally confused and that they're sharp and quick-witted and able to solve whatever comes up. You know, if there's a intruder that comes, if there's a bear that tries to eat your family, you would hope that someone is mentally sharp enough to solve that or face that head on, as opposed to crying about it, or the fight, or the freezing up or fleeing sort of emotional reaction you might have. So there are reasons why men want to be seen that way. But I guess what I really want you guys to consider is that both feeling and thinking are both tools that could be used to do anything that you want. If you want to be in academia, if you want to be seen as really, really intelligent and really successful, you can use feeling to do that. If you care about a topic, that passion will drive you to learn more than people that don't care about it. And you can use feeling to really put yourself in the role or position that you feel is best for you. And if you could do that, then you're going to perform better than people that are in a position that don't feel like it's right for them. And feelers might be pickier about that stuff. They might like really want to be passionate about something. They might really want to have a purpose or whatever. But once they're there, then the logic follows. I mean, I've gotten every single one of my jobs through using extroverted feeling, which is a tool. What I do is I talk to people and I try and see, is there a way I can help this person achieve their goals? And if I do that, then 9 times out of 10, then they'll do the same for me. It just happens organically. The thinking side all happens organically whenever my first foot forward is that. And there's been so many successful men that have said literally the same thing that I've said, but people will still think of them as a thinker because of their accolades. They won't think of them as perhaps a feeler that was using feeling to get successful. Even though the traditional idea of you needing to be a thinker to go out on the workforce and a feeler to raise kids is completely outdated, because we all know that a thinker being at home with kids would be able to maybe make better decisions about the household. Like maybe this is just an example. I'm not saying that thinkers are better at making decisions, but perhaps a thinker could decide how to organize the household better, or what types of food to make. I mean, I don't know, like one of my grandmas is an ESTJ, and she still fit all of the traditional female roles, even as a thinker, even as like a hard ass, like a lady. Like, I mean, she'd just be like, sit down at the table, it's time to do grace, it's time to eat the food. She'll like tell you to like go around a circle. You have to like pass the salad around in a circle. Like, she has all her rules for everything. ESTJs are able to raise children and be nurturing, like, in the same way. So it's like, if an ESTJ can raise children and be nurturing, then perhaps an ENFJ or an ESFJ can be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar business and make decisions that work for the team. I really just want you guys to think about and consider, how much does our gender roles and how much does the expectations that we have on people's behavior influence how we are able to type people? Because I think that at first glance, I'm guilty of this too. When we look at a man, we are just looking for the areas that he is competent and successful. And a lot of times, if that is the baseline that we're starting out at, we might come to the conclusion that he's a thinker, whether or not he actually is one. Because that's the default. That's the default that we judge all men in society for. Every single one of us. I do this too. Even men that I care about, even like, if a father in a family, it's like, if a man in the family has been in and out of jobs, like trying to figure out their career situation for 5 years, that would cause concern for most people. But if a woman was doing that, that would not cause concern, because there's not nearly as much expectation on women to get their career in order. It's the same with, I saw something on Twitter the other day of a man that was like, man, all I have to do is make a peanut butter sandwich for my child, and I get praised for being the best dad ever, whereas my wife does this stuff every day and never gets any praise. It's because people expect women to be that way, just as we expect men to be successful, and these expectations aren't good. Like, I would propose that we get to a baseline where we don't expect really anything from anyone and just let people be who they are, no matter what gender they identify or whatever. But when the base level is expectation on men to be competent, then we're going to start to view them as thinkers, because those are the things that are going to pop out at us. For example, I believe that Jordan Peterson is an INFP, and I think a lot of people know him as being argumentative and sharing lots of facts. A lot of NFPs I know, whenever they're passionate about something, can be like a fun fact machine and like know everything there is to know about their topic of interest in their FI, and are actually able to be very argumentative once they have a value that they're sticking to, and they can be really freaking stubborn. So, but the way that we are viewing, the way we view him, we're looking for the ways that he's competent. We're looking at, oh, he's argumentative. Oh, he knows all these facts. We aren't looking at the times that I've seen him get a little emotional. I mean, I'm mostly judging this. I'm aware of Jordan Peterson, for example, from his psychology of personality lectures that he has on YouTube. We don't notice the time that, wow, you raised your voice a bit. Like, people don't say that about men, but people say that about women all the time. People aren't paying as much attention to the times that he raises his voice a little bit, or, oh, he seemed a little angry there, or like, oh, are you okay? Like, people don't notice that in men as much, because it's not what they're looking for, because it's not the traditional expectation we've held on them. Not because they're not capable of that, and not because you, as the independent observer, don't believe it's possible for men to be that way. And for women, it's the same thing. Like, I can share all these facts, and you guys might only be listening to how I'm talking. You might notice I'm long-winded. You might notice that I seem emotional. You might notice the way I express myself, the way I move my hands. You might not be listening to the fucking facts I say. You might not be listening to the ways that I have pieced together all this logic. Now, I am a feeler, but I have gotten people thinking that I was a thinker, probably because they're confused that, I don't know. Man, the expectations people have on women just fucking suck. And men. Because if there's an expectation on women, then there's one on men. Like, this is all of our problem. This is not just a women problem. Like, it's painful for men to have the expectation to always be competent at all times too. Yeah. And that's not even necessarily the best way to assure that someone will be successful, by holding like a deep expectation on them to be a certain way and to act a certain way. So anyway, just take a moment and think about what I'm saying, especially if this is new information to you. If it's not new information to you and you are already aware that sexism exists, just think about that from now on. Every time you type someone, your friend or them, maybe just ask yourself the question, like, is this influencing me? Is sexism or the patriarchy influencing me? Am I able to perhaps, am I pigeonholing them in a certain group of types based on their behavior that I would expect? And the answer might be yes, the answer might be no. I'm just asking you to please consider it. I might be wrong about all of the types that I listed, because I don't know these people personally, and I don't like to type people that I don't know personally, because people show aspects of themselves in different environments, and unless you know the person as a whole, who are you to type them, in my opinion? So I can tell you my opinion of the people's types based on the functions I see and based on my observations, but I'm not Donald Trump, I'm not Jordan Peterson, I'm not Carl Jung. All I can tell you is the types that I see and the patterns that I see. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. Please join my Facebook group that's free, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. I also recently launched a educational video, or an educational a more educational Facebook group that is also linked below. It's $10 a month. I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a lovely day.